Pigeons 420. Mr. Grow It. And Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV. From the Stash Podcast.
From the Stash Podcast, it's your boy Rob from CLtv, Mr. Grow It, and Pigeons 420.
What up, what up, what up?
What up, y'all?
As Pigeons right now is taking a rip, so he's just waving for those listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
ASMR. There you go. Goosefrog. Bring it down, bring it down. So yeah, good seeing you boys, man. Good seeing you boys as usual. It's like I feel like the regular routine, man. If I don't get the fix of the stash, then the week feels weird. So I'm glad that we got these.
Oh, it ain't right. We need to make this show happen.
That's what I'm saying. Man, speaking of making it happen,
I'm excited about today's episode.
Speaking of making it happen, you guys ever made some crazy shit happen out of nothing or out of very little? You know, DIY, baby.
Oh yeah.
I normally have not been that guy, but man, I have more and more seeing what's going on out there that's not too hard. So it's crazy.
I don't think you can be in. Maybe it's a bit of a bold statement, but I would say gardening kind of brings out the DIY in all of us, the creative kind of genius that is inside of all of us. I think it's fair to say that once you become a gardener,
you become
or even just a cultivator, if you will. You don't have, at least I didn't, I have all the money when I started. And a lot of the things that I had to do were kind of makeshift, kind of DIY. I remember making DIY light fixtures for crying out loud. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Like, what crazy things did you guys create in the garden?
How do you buy coffee, Chris? So you start.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, so DIY, I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that before we really get into it is, you know, this grow equipment, it can be expensive, right? It can add up very quickly. So you need to be creative at times, and you need to think about ways to save money, and doing it yourself, rigging things together to make things work, is what a lot of gardeners do. A lot of you guys listening to it do this stuff. So I'll start it off on this one. One of the ones that I haven't done myself, but I've seen people do, which I thought was pretty creative, is adding frozen water bottles into their reservoir to control the water temp. So specifically in like DWC, for example, you need to control your water temps. Now, naturally, where I live in the summertime, my natural room temperature here can get up to like 80, 85 sometimes here, which is pretty high. And if your water temp is that high, you can run into problems. So what some growers do is they'll have frozen water bottles, they'll put it in their res, and that helps reduce the temperature of the reservoir. So they're not running into those issues, which I thought was pretty creative for sure.
I do that in my
because if you don't do that, right, your other alternative would be to buy a chiller. So a chiller will chill the water temp, right? But that, I mean, I don't know too much about them, so I don't want to speak beyond my knowledge. But from my understanding, it can be pretty high watts, high energy consumption. So if you do start doing the math, it might not actually be worth it to grow using a chiller, depending on the number of plants you're growing and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean the frozen water bottle hack is definitely a DIY that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I used that for years, man. I still use it for my AirPod includer. I use ice packs and frozen water bottles consistently. It honestly, frozen water bottles stay cool longer, seemingly. Like you've got really cold water that ends up in the bottom there, and I look at my container, I'm like, holy shit, I gotta pull it out. Like temperature's too low, which is insane in such a small container. I guess it can retain it maybe a little easier when you got the cold in there. But the fact that I could just go grab another bottle out of the freezer, toss it in there, that's super, super easy. Now, if you got a gigantic container, in the past I've run a 13-gallon DWC container. That took a lot more. I literally would put a 2-liter, frozen 2-liter bottle, but you gotta account for the expanding of the bottle. So sometimes I haven't done that, and it's blown the cap off there, and you know, bad things happen there. But if you just put a little in there, even just half of it, that bottle will keep it cold. And when you got a little bit of air also, it'll float. So the more ice in there, it is potentially going to sink. But if you have it float a little bit, the top and the bottom will be able to stay nice and cool, and it's even. And that's what you're going to want to do more, especially with, you know, water and roots. Yeah, it's a great one, Chris.
Yeah, Yeah, I didn't even I didn't even think of that one. I'm always thinking of ways to warm my water up because I'm in the opposite. Yeah, it's cold down here, and if I leave it on the basement floor, that's even worse. So yeah, to cool it down that way, that's that one. I like that one, and that kind of ties into the one I was thinking of too. Is the DIY air conditioner. I believe it was NV Closet Med Grower that has this video out there. Show it to him, and shout out to whoever it is. If it's not him that created this video,
but also the other person.
This shit out to them.
Yeah,
right. Actually, the actual person. They took a massive beer cooler or free whatever you want to refer to it as, a picnic cooler, and kind of took holes out of the sides and filled it with ice, and then pumped air through it. Had a fan blow through the air conditioner or through the cooler, and was able to decrease their environment temperatures by like 5 degrees. And I thought, wow. Now, granted, I would assume that you'd want to take advantage of this on the outside of your grow room, because that ice is only going to melt faster if it's on the inside of your grow room. And I'm not sure how often he changed it.
But it's a lot more
it's definitely an idea if you're in a space.
A $300-400 steady
Right.
AC unit that he would potentially be able to afford at that time, or to be able to run for the electricity. That's a big thing too. Is if you can DIY without using that much electricity, it's a huge benefit. Some cases
Key.
you do have to spend a little bit more money, and you can't DIY it because you need that more efficient piece of equipment. Because it can be, like we're saying with the chiller, is like, is that worth that in every case? Because sometimes adding more electricity, more wattage to your grow is going to hinder the performance. As where maybe adding a bunch of fans would be less efficient than one really high quality AC unit, depending. So you got to weigh those pros and cons out, and also the equipment to put it together. I've got buddies who have been kind of doing DIY grow tents lately, and it's really good when you just got PVC pipe and they're like stretching the like material. It's not even like, it's almost like poly, but it's a little thicker, and they're using that for the tent. And I had a buddy who was using wood for a while for that, because he liked that he could hook things to it easier. Well, the cost of wood has increased like crazy, like unbelievably.
Tenfold down there.
So that's not efficient now. You literally would save on buying a grow tent. Like, you're better off to just buy the damn grow tent at that point with how big are the ones he was trying to set up. So you got to think about cost and time put in too. Because for me, that's usually my time is the thing. Is I'm like, well, shit, this will probably take me like a week to assemble. I barely have any time, so I have to chip at it little by little by little. Or I could just order it and spend an extra $50 and saves my time. Like, that's where sometimes I will go the other route. But I've seen for DIY when it comes to light movers even. I've got a buddy who's done one that's manual. He has to do it himself, but it's nice because his space is very limited and he can't really use a lot of watts in there. So, and because it's an apartment space. Meta will say, Pigeons, you know, where we don't talk about outside of that. But he is in an area where it's not as safe for him to show his grow. So he's just literally made everything in a very small space, but he can move it side by side, and he's got a timer for himself, and he goes in the room, he works from home, he does internet type of shit, and he just moves it. And he just moves it. And he took it's like little rollers, like cart rollers, and he just hooked it to the ceiling. And I was like, man, that's cool. And he's like, oh, it takes me fucking 2 seconds in a day. I don't care. I can do it. It's like, damn. And he's getting full coverage for like his room, really. And I'm like, wow. And total for him, he just went and found scrap parts, and it was about $100 to put together for everything with, I mean, extra shit he doesn't even use, just it looks cool in there. I'll have to post in the Discord if he'll send me one. He might be a little paranoid, but really cool the fact that he took something that would have cost him quite a bit more in my opinion and just slapped it together. And it is more manual labor, but the savings of his electricity bill and the fact that he's able to grow in this damn place that he wasn't able to grow, he's like, there's no way, dude, and I can't afford one of those crazy LEDs you guys rock. I'm like, well, dog, I don't know what to tell you then. Looks like you're hitting the streets for your herb. But DIY, man, stoner ingenuity. I love it.
Mm-hmm. One of the ones that I did in the past is mountable fans. So the Hurricane fans, arguably some of the best fans on the market. There's wall-mounted ones, and I used to have one in my grow tent. But it's like, well, if it's a wall-mounted, how do you actually get that into your grow tent? Where are you going to place it? And I got this, I forget who I got this idea from, but basically mounting it to a board first and then hanging that board within your grow tent. So, you know, the board needs to be probably about a foot height, and then the width of your grow tent. And then basically you're drilling holes in all 4 corners of the board, and then you're using light ratchets to hang from the top you're hanging the board, and then you also need to secure the bottom part as well, because if you don't, it'll just be weighted, like the fan will just kind of weigh down like this. So you need to secure the bottom part as well. But just using light ratchets, a board, and mounting it to that board, you're able to get a lot more air circulation. Having those 12-inch fans is what I used. I think some people have done 18-inch fans, which are much larger. But that's actually really good for a 4x8 space as well, because you have that extra length. If you put that mountable fan on one side of the grow tent, it'll actually reach all the way across that whole 8-foot space, right? So I thought that was something I've used in the past, got a DIY thing that has worked well for me.
I have a 4x8 I'm looking at right here, and I'm like, holy shit, like, I've got this expensive tent that takes up square footage in there that's on the ground, and that's a great idea, man. And I've had somebody else who's done something comparable. What they did is they sacrificed a little hole in their tent, which sucks, but they put it all the way up against the wall, and they mounted it to the wall through the tent. And at first I was like, that's fuck, you're ruining your tent. He's never going to move. They own his house. He's going to be there forever. And he may not tent grow eventually, but that's perfect for him because he's got the 4x8. He doesn't utilize the whole space because those hurricanes are beasts, man. Sometimes I feel like it's too much power in a tent, especially. But it's like he doesn't utilize that whole far corner nearly as much. He just got the 4x8 for cheap. He saw mine and was like, damn, I'm copping it. But he doesn't grow nearly as much. So for him, it's perfect. And he's got it far against the wall. And he's utilizing a bunch of shit that's against there. He's got his drivers and stuff mounted down. Like, put him out of the tent. He's like, no, my shit gets cold. So I can kind of utilize my heat. By having those in there, the little bit of heat they do give off, he's utilizing. But he's got them mounted on the tent wall against the wall. So, I mean, DIY, kind of ghetto DIY, but he made it happen in terms of just utilizing the space like it's an open room. Because that's how, in most rooms that I see, you've got something on the ceiling or the wall or outside the room, but it's mounted somewhere. It's not just sitting. In a tent, it's like, where do I put this? Do I have it free hang with ratchets from here? Like, what do I do with it? So the wood thing, man, I'm doing that like tonight.
DIY will get you a long way. It'll get you out of these situations that you are stuck in. My very first grow, my very first successful harvest, I should say, started with a plant. It was I wanted to remember the strain. Anyways, it started in a micro space bucket, and this thing was created by I took 3 5-gallon pails, and I stacked them within each other to kind of create, levels, height. You take the lid and you stick CFLs within the lid. You put in a computer fan on the side. I wrapped that thing in hockey tape, Canadian hockey tape.
Everybody has hockey tape.
And it blocked out all the light, because these were white 5-gallon pails, and the light would come through. But I created a micro environment for a plant that I got all the way through the entire veg cycle in this micro space bucket that took up no more space than 3 5-gallon pails inside of each other. So they're not like stacked on top; they're inside of each other. So it's no more than like maybe 2.5 feet off the ground, with about a 10-inch, maybe 12, 14-inch opening. And that thing turned into a beast. Hog. It was the name of it.
It grew like a hog.
Anyways, hog. Yeah. And it's amazing. You actually find on the internet, YouTube Pigeons micro space bucket. You'll find it.
Yeah,
You'll
Scott's
find it.
got that.
And right. It's an amazing. That's an inside joke. No one else will understand.
Will, but we do, and it was good.
It was good. Damn it! It was good. Micro space bucket, man. It was honestly one of the more ingenious ideas that I had. And worked out really well. Took up no space at all. So I literally created the entire environment through DIY.
There's a guy I think he's also in your Discord area, The Flock. I don't know if you know about that, but you should. Also in the CLtv Discord group. But One-Eyed Cat Cannabis. He's got a fucking old dishwasher that he's using for his breeding ground.
Yeah.
He's got a plant growing in there.
That was one.
It's like,
and it's beautiful.
I know, he's killing it.
I saw that.
I just reshared on Instagram one of his flowering plants. Is I think it was Skittles times with watermelon, something like across watermelon. Like, he's killing it, man. Check him out on Instagram, over in the Discord too. He's killing it. But the DIY, he acts like it's nothing. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Go back to that.
I also took an old beer fridge and I turned it into a garden as well.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, and it's amazing what little these things are made of when you start drilling through them.
Yeah, you get the reefer unit out. It's just a hollowed area that's environmentally controlled. And that's the cool part about it is
Right.
I got a
Right.
dude I know who took a deep freezer just like that, and he did way more work than necessary. But he took a deep freeze, and it's like he literally gutted it and turned that into his veg area. All his clones are all in the deep freezer, and his light is mounted to
And
the
you
top
know it's
part.
light proof.
It's tight, so like he lifts it up, and
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
oh, I got again. This is another guy who's in a place that he may be paranoid about, but I want him to send me some shots because it's just so cool to see the taking something that was junk. They were going to scrap it, they're going to throw it out, and they're like, well, metal is nothing right now. We're not getting any scrap money, so let's do something with it. Let's scrap it into something cool. And now it's their number one spot because again, during any season, it's the same climate-controlled space. It's always tight. It's always perfect, and it's cool. It looks really cool. It's a great conversation piece.
This next one is one that's so common that I almost didn't even want to mention it, but I'm like, why not? But most of you have probably seen videos where somebody did this, which is the DIY trellis net, right? So you can either buy a trellis net, spend the $7-10, whatever, however much it costs, or you can make your own. And there's videos, just type in DIY trellis net or DIY SCROG. Some people call it a SCROG net. And you'll see there's videos on how to do this. But basically, it's PVC piping is what most people use, and have that as the corners, and they build out the frame. And then they have the trellis net to the certain height that they want it to be. And then they'll drill into the PVC piping, screws, and they'll have it whatever spacing they want to do. Like some people will do 3-inch spacing. Some people will do 4-inch spacing. But after they have the screws all around the frame there, then they'll actually weave in string. And they'll go back and forth all the way through. And so they have their own DIY custom trellis net. Very, very common. A lot of people do this. But I still figured it'd be worth mentioning in case, hey, maybe there's somebody who didn't know about that and they want to explore it, try it out.
I'm so dumb. I did that same thing, but instead I took zip ties to connect it instead of using screws. Dirt. So I'm glad we did this episode. So the next time I do it, I'm going to use screws because you can make it tighter. That's better. So yeah, that's the thing though, man, is like, being on the show, I learn shit almost every time we do an episode. So I love when we get in conversations like this because the DIY side of things, it's not just because you're on a budget or you're penny wise pound poor or whatever. It could be because they don't have an option. There's a very small amount of clip fans, oscillating clip fans you can get for grow tents. So that tip, huge. There's another thing, like I said, for my buddy's limited on space. So he was like, well, shit, man, I can't get my lights. You got your 4x4 space, so I can get the 2x2. He's like, well, I've got it's like a 1x3. I'm like, one? Fuck kind of plants you got going in there? He's like, well, like that's all I can do because I need to be able to get in the room still and go around there. And I was like, oh, it's a closet. It's like a sliding closet. And I'm like, all right. He's watching Matt shit, so he's like, I'm trying to be a closet grower. Make this shit happen. I'm like, all right, do it up, dog. Well, he ended up putting these bar lights, Chiltex bar lights, and he just set them up throughout the room, so he was able to get damn near the X6, but kind of weirdly, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then he has cob lights that he's done. So, well, he didn't DIY that. He DIY'd the setup of how he put his lights in, where I'm like, damn, that was pretty innovative. I can't believe you got this much power in this little ass space. And, well, he spent a kind of pretty penny to do that because you had to make it happen. It wasn't about saving money. It was about making it work for his space. So he had to strap it together little by little by little by little. But now it's optimized like you'd have this big grow here. It's just longer, you know?
A lot of this stuff too, when we DIY, didn't exist.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we're creating only got created because we were doing it ourselves. And I think about we talked a few episodes back about little training clips and things. It's like I create these on my own. And when it comes to doing it myself in the garden, when I'm bending and I'm working my plants, I take metal coat hangers and I cut the coat hangers so that you can get the U shape, and I pin those suckers into the pots all the way along so I can pin
smart.
down my plants. And yeah, it costs me nothing because who doesn't have a million freaking metal coat hangers kicking around? And great way to save money, great way to make it happen. But I'm doing it myself because there is what else am I going to use?
See, I use binder clips.
There's nothing out
you ever
there.
see that, like the little binder clips that you
That's
slide
what I
it
was
through
going to
there,
say. Yeah.
and then you bend it down, and it's like it secures it with your stab. It's still DIY though. That's not grow related at all.
Absolutely.
Like you literally are finding things for fucking office supplies and utilizing that in the grow space. I think that's where if you can see something that could be applicable to gardening, it doesn't necessarily have to be 420 specific. That's when you sell a lot. When a company's like, this is the fucking green thing now. It's for plants and increase your yield. But there's a lot of stuff that's around the house that can be used. Another one is for doing let's say you've got a really hardy stem or something, you want to do some super crop, especially outdoor, taking some, or not PVC, some pliers, some needle nose pliers, and then wrapping. You could even use some hockey tape if you want to, but we use electrical tape on there, and then so it's not going to chew into it, and then you can work it a little bit. And you could also use those as roach clips too. We got the Homegrown Crazy with those, but yeah, you could work it in there. And we just saw there's a pair of super croppers, they're called, and that's all they fucking are. They're rubbered on the tips. They're pliers with rubbered fucking tips, and like you could slide them on.
And essentially, this is because the stems are so big.
And if you use your finger, you're gonna break your damn finger probably. So it's like
you
hurt
just yourself.
Work it, and then it's got that pinch. I know.
Genius.
I mean, and so Trey
like
turned me onto that back with the outdoor grow, and he was like, "Hold on, we're trying to super crop the plants." I'm like, "Doc, these motherfuckers are done. These are stalks now. We're done with it." And he's like, "No,
you're not
right. Like, we still got a month before
we don't super
flower,
crop trees,
man."
bro.
He's like, "Hell no!" And they're gonna get so tall, I have to super crop them. It's not a choice. So he goes there and he wraps the tape like he's done it a million times. We got a video on
wrap enough tape. You're not going to damage.
Exactly, but it was just
that's awesome.
I mean, 2 cents. I mean, he already has the shit in his garage.
Genius.
So I'm like, dude,
doing it yourself. I'm curious too. We're a few minutes. I want to hear from you in the comments too. You know, I know for a fact that we haven't scratched the surface on DIY. There is a DIY for everything out there. Let's just face it, you know. So if you're doing it yourself in the garden, we want to hear from you. I want to hear in the comments, what did we miss? Whether it's grow related, smoke related, you name it. It's DIY in the cannabis community. I
think we could probably do a whole nother episode on DIY smoking devices.
We got some part 2s
right?
coming. Yeah, we should do a part 2 on the smoking apparatuses. Because we've got stories for days on that. Definitely. Man. I've got some crazies. Bud Guyver. Or Bong Guyver is what we call my buddy.
Bud Guyver. The stoners are the most ingenuitive.
Ingenuitive?
Sure. What's wrong with that? Check Urban Dictionary. Are very... What's the word, Chris? Come on. Are very...
I know where the word is, but I got real stoned.
Move on. I know. I'm stuck
I'm very
here.
happy.
Damn, what's the word in the comments section? If you tuned in, I want to hear what word I'm thinking of in the comments section. Fill me in. We're very creative. That's the word I'm just going to fall back on. That's not the one I was looking for, but that's the one I'm going to go. Yeah. But
stoner ingenuity is a real thing, man. I say it all the time. I know, it's right there. It's an I word.
It's right there. It is.
But another thing, man, is so Green Goblin, 510, if you don't know who he is, check him out. He's over on CLtv all the time. He's got his own channel as well.
I believe Chris did a show with that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I think Photosynthetic as well did one. Meet the Grower. So check those out. Smart guy, knows his shit, high IQ. He has done a lot of DIY stuff all the time, but he really, what has blown me away the most, a lot of other things like you can just do, but this thing that I stutter and struggle with. I'm stoned, it works. Is essentially that he's taking a smart device that you'd use for everyday basic shit and he turned it into his grow smart device. He's got like the push sensor Newa Grow Hub combo within DIY using Raspberry Pi and coding, essentially using a lot of stuff that is out there that you can get templates for, so to speak, or plug and play stuff, but you implement it into your own garden. He's able to see everything on screen, get alerts, has it on his phone, all DIY, and saved a bunch of money. Now there's little sensors and things that you can buy that of course are going to add up, but nothing like when you're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for things like that aren't going to be as robust potentially because it's not to your garden. There may be things that you've added into it that are more select and specific for your garden. For me, I'm okay with something like the Newa Grow Hub because I keep this space pretty basic. The other space is a little more elaborate, so I probably will end up going that route of getting something more unique to what I need. And when you've got a system like that you can stack on and build onto, that DIY side, you're saving a lot of money, but you're also making it very custom to your grow space. That's where I personally see DIY more for that purpose, is why I would prefer it in comparison to doing something that you buy. It's because you buy it and it's a plug and play and it's got to fit. You bring a box and put it in a circle, ain't going to work. But if you're working the circle how you want to work it, then it's perfect. You do exactly what you want within your budget, you know? At least for me.
Yep.
I was going to say, I just got one more to add.
If you can get the words out better than me, go ahead. That won't be hard.
So this particular fertilizer, talk about DIY fertilizer, right? This is one that y'all gonna laugh at, but it's possible. I haven't done it myself.
I was literally gonna mention this exact same.
About, right?
This is
urine for fertilizer, right? So you can actually dilute your urine and use that as fertilizer. It's rich in nitrogen, it's phosphorus. I've never done this myself, but something I've been
have a decent diet,
looking to do. Yeah, you have to have a decent diet.
It would be well.
Chris will be pissing soon.
Well, I'm sure it would be heavily influenced on what you're
Absolutely.
Your
urine is your waste.
If your body and your balance, what goes in is coming out. Our bodies should be balanced in pH as much as our
alkaline, baby.
as much as our plants should. But anyway, sorry, I was literally going to mention the exact.
That's
same
funny.
thing.
Yeah, no, it's just urine for fertilizer. That's pretty straightforward. You don't want to pee directly on your plants, for sure. That's
Unless
too
you don't
strong.
like the
You would
person,
actually
you could piss
burn
in
your
their plant.
plants. But Google it. Do some research. Figure out how you can utilize urine as a fertilizer, because lots of people are doing it, and it saves money. So.
And I know it works. I have not done it myself, but I do have a member in my community who has done it, and he documented it very well. He did dilute it, but what can go? So it does work, but it doesn't go standalone. Your plants need far more than nitrogen to survive. I think we should mention composting. It's like composting. Take your fertilizer into your own hands. And again, this is something that I don't utilize. I tried to do compost. Unfortunately, I'm just dumb, and I can't do compost.
I just buy mine.
I'm with you. Which is such an oxymoron, right? We have so much waste. I know. Anyway, I can't do it. I tried to do it, but I don't know where to put it in the wintertime because it gets so fucking cold here that it's like I tried to compost in my house.
Yeah, it's fucking awful.
Bugs,
yeah,
bro.
It's horrible.
Fuck.
I'm in the same predicament.
Nasty. But anyway, and that shit doesn't last outside. I was like, okay, well, maybe it stays hot enough. Well, no, minus 50 freezes everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you're at. But anyways, take your compost. Use your waste. Urine is just one aspect of that. All the food that we waste as human beings, the amount of paper, the amount of earthworm. What are the worms I'm thinking of specifically?
Night crawlers.
Yeah,
wormy
red
worms.
wiggler. That's what I was thinking in particular.
Wormy worms.
They're a huge advantage, and they are a huge, alternative and benefit to your garden instead of spending money. We are already creating the fertilizer within our own house, in our own waste, within our waste. So use it.
No, it's a good one, man. Another one, just a quick throw out there, is watering containers. So, buckets obviously work good, but I've known people who've done totes.
I just put it in my hands
too, and just throw it in the room. There you go. With nutrients, you mix the nutrients in.
Yeah, just in your hand.
And then shake it. Go. That's the best way to do it, in the mouth, and then. But I think, when you deal with a larger space and you're going to be watering, you can utilize more things than you realize. So you can go and buy garbage cans or use old garbage cans, like depending if you've obviously got to clean it thoroughly. In my case, I had a bunch of totes, a bunch of 18-gallon laundry totes at one point when didn't have laundry option where I lived, so we had to go to the laundromat. And then we had laundry options, so we got all these fucking totes, and I was using them for plants, little whole plants, 18-gallon pots. Changed that up. I'm like, this is too much. Can't do it. So I had still about 15 of those fuckers, and I was like, these are going to be my reses. I'm going to use, and they held the water just fine because they were smaller containers. They actually kept the temperature better. You'd think the larger ones would, but I was able to put, because most times I did have to have some sort of thing to heat it, so I'd keep it off of the ground. But I had just little VivoSun cheap little heating things for the water. You can get also for fish tank ones too. Very affordable if you got an old fish tank to take some of the stuff from there. And I had my resis set up very nice, dirt cheap, because I already had the stuff. So I'm like, well, why not? Let's do that. And I got a buddy who utilized his fish tank in the same type of ways. His fish tank now is his watering spot. They didn't have any fish in there anymore. He did, and he watered with the fish shit in there, which was good. But he doesn't feel like taking care of the fish, so he just uses that tank that's always bubbling, pH is right, all these. I'm like, oh, that's weird, but hey. He's like, I just scoop it and I water when I need to, dude. I'm like, damn, all right. Organic fucking gross. So, I mean, he's just watering. I'm like, fuck it. That's your reservoir. It's your big-ass fish tank. Okay, interesting. Do your thing.
Do it yourself. Yeah. Do it yourself. Great examples. I learned something
Same here.
from this
Literally
episode.
tonight, I'm going to get wood
I took some things away from this.
For the fucking 4x8. No exaggeration. Like, that's gold, man.
That's awesome. I'd love to know, Pigeon said it earlier, but I'll say it again, is we want to know in the comment section, like, what do you guys do DIY in your garden? for equipment or whatever, let us know in the comment section below. Because want to learn, want to do things cheaper. It's fun. Some of these DIY projects that we do are actually fun. Maybe time consuming, but it's fun and enjoyable for a lot of us. So
rewarding.
Let us know in the comment section.
Absolutely.
And if you want to see a part 2 to DIY smoking, hit that like button. Hit that like button. If we can get 1,000 likes on this one, there's a part 2.
Yeah, that really does
doubt.
dictate it. How do we even know? It's like 10 people say, do it. And we're like,
it's the same account.
but if you smash that fucking like button,
Just
it
like
does
my
help.
trolls.
And also, it helps get the message out to more people, so more people can hear these things and be able to save and DIY it and make it happen and have a great garden, man. So, I think with that being said, appreciate everybody in the fucking chat section, comment section. Drop a like, smash it, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening, show love as well, however you can. Reviews are great. But with that being said, it's your boy Rob from CLtv, Mr. Grow It, and Pigeons. We out here, baby. See y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.